So welcome to James Dean Bradfield, and all very exciting because there's going to be a new album from the Manics which will come out at the beginning of July. Lovely to talk to you, James. How are you?
Hello, how you doing, Janice?
I'm fine, are you?
Yeah, I'm okay. Yeah, I'm just down here in Cardiff, and the night is drawing in.
And you're chilling with the dog?
Oh, well, she's definitely chilled.
Oh.
Yeah, she's snoring like a good one, so if you only need a few ones, it's her, not me.
And have you had a good bank holiday weekend?
Yeah, no, it was good. I had a good pub lunch today with the family.
Very nice.
And a good roast dinner done in Pontypridd, so kind of like it was a good day, and the sun was shining.
Oh, the sun was glorious in Birmingham. It was just so beautiful all weekend.
Yeah, no, we can have because we had a deluge before it the day before, and then kind of like I was out walking the dog this morning, and she looked at me and she was like, "Hey, this is going to be a good day."
Well, Paul was doing things in the garden, and our dog was running around because there were lots of twigs he could put in his mouth and big, bits of branch and stuff. So he was really excited, just chewing on those all afternoon. Tell us about the album then, because I read somewhere that it was inspired, driving along the autobahns in Germany, listening to certain kinds of music.
Yeah, I mean, kind of like, I suppose, as you might say, Rewind, the film that was released last year, was a bit more introspective and a bit more retrospective in terms of looking at the past and seeing where you sit in the present. I think this album kind of looks towards the future a tiny bit more, lives in the present a bit more perhaps, and not entirely, but it's more forward-looking. And I suppose, it's amazing for us. We've been touring the European mainland now since 1991, and so we've seen, countries, like Germany, Italy, kind of like Scandinavia, former Eastern Bloc countries. We've seen all these places change before our eyes since 1991, kind of thing. And I suppose we went back to a few old obsessions. Nick was a bit of a Norwegian kind of Can and Faust obsessive. Yeah. Richey was definitely into his, I can never pronounce this, I stunned the new Batson.
Yes.
And kind of like, and Sean was definitely into his craft work, and I was into a bit of Popple V. And it just all seemed to link up, We've toured Europe so much since 2006. And just certain reference points just seem to keep coming up in the songs, whether it be an artist or a painter or just the actual kind of architecture of the city, or just so many cultural reference points just from the European mainland that kind of the body and the influence of the album just started kind of coming to fruition before our eyes, really. And
when you've got that magnificent landscape that's changing all of the time, as you say, that's got to be an inspiration.
It is, yeah. I mean, there is that kind of jaded, kind of like a viewpoint of that touring is just a treadmill and that you never see anything of a city. But I kind of don't agree with that. I suppose we have a pretty good schedule. We do 2 concerts one day off, 2 concerts one day off, kind of thing. So we always get to see good places in the cities we go to, whether it be a museum or whether it's just a cup of coffee or food or beer, whatever. and we just, I think we managed to actually just take all of these cities in as we tour, kind of thing. And because I'm not so hungover anymore, I suppose. I only drink at sporting occasions, so and it is amazing to see. I remember the first time I went to Potsdamer Platz in Berlin. Oh yeah, it was just a landscape of cranes just going into the distance, and that was finished. And it's amazing in Germany how they seem to, the old and the new and the future all just seems to sit comfortably next to each other. I suppose people that live in Germany and these countries, they wouldn't notice that, but for us, when we are coming in and out of it, it's just quite startling to us, really.
Well, I went to Berlin for the first time before Christmas. We all went, the family, and we just fell in love with it completely. I mean, it's still a work in progress, isn't it? But it's magnificent, that mix.
But if you have the reference point of seeing these places, in the very early 90s, you do just go, holy Moroni, how the hell did that happen? And how the hell did they manage to keep a sense of the old city alongside the titanium brushed new version of the city as well? But yes, an amazing place. I got some friends that live out there, and I've got a black book of many eateries and bars and kind of places that I go to in Berlin. It's an amazing place.
I urge anybody to go there. It's such a great city. And, of course, paintings can inspire you as well, can't they?
Yes, no, I mean, kind of, obviously there's a couple of songs on the record. There's This is where we do delve into the past, I suppose. Where there's a song called "Between the Clock and the Bed," which is inspired by an old Edward Monk painting, which deals with the oncoming rush of death. Here we go again, Manic Preacher's Land. But that's a duet with Squirty Politti, Green Gartside for Squirty Politti, which is just like a bizarre kind of little dream to come true, because I remember buying would-be, 7-inch, in the 80s, and actually drew a picture of Green Gartside for our O-level. And then he sang one of our tracks, which is amazing. So,
and you've got some interesting, you mentioned Green Gartside, who I bump into every year because I do the Producers Guild, the judging for that, and he's a fellow judge. What a lovely bloke he is. And there are other interesting duets on this album.
So there's Georgia Ruth, who won the Welsh Music Prize last year. She sings on a track called Divine Youth. And then there's a track on the album called Europa geht durch mich, which means Europe passes through me in German. And that's an actress that sings on that track. She's a German actress called Nina Hoss. She is like what you might call the queen of auteur kind of independent cinema in Europe.
Right.
She's an amazing actress. I knew of her work before she sang on this record, and she coincidentally she's the partner of Alex Silver, who was the engineer on the Holy Bible.
Yeah.
So kind of like that's how we made contact with her, kind of thing. So her vocal is amazing on the record. It's just one of those moments where somebody comes and sings in your records, but they're not a singer, they're an actress, and then they just do it in the first take. And it's not very good for your self-esteem, I can tell you.
So we were touring this album throughout the summer.
Yeah, well, we just we're going to start a European tour very soon now, and see if a lot of this Eurocentric material actually kind of like seems Eurocentric when we actually play in the European mainland. And we're just doing lots of festivals, and we're off to Japan and stuff.
Yeah.
And at the end of the year, we're just trying to decide whether we're going to do a tour later in the year, which will be part Futurology and Great Hits and part Holy Bible. We don't know if we're going to do it yet. So, because it's the 20th anniversary of the Holy Bible, and we're trying to decide whether we're going to play the whole album later in the year or not. So we got a lot of stuff going on.
Well, I definitely want to come. I won't be able to go to Glastonbury Tea in the Park or V, unfortunately. But when you're next out on the road, I'd love to come and see you. And the album Futurology is out on the 7th of July. And prior to that, we've already played it on the show. Will be the single Walk Me to the Bridge, which I'm about to play now. James, thanks ever so much for staying up and doing this for us.
Oh, thank you, Janice. It's an absolute pleasure. I'm a night owl anyway. I'm listening.
All right. Well, lots of love, and you take care, and love to the rest of the band.
See ya. Bye-bye.